This is the video for building the sample robot. You're going to be building the sample robot for a couple reasons. One, so you know how to build a robot pet. And two, you're going to be using it at least on day 3, and also on day 1 as an expectation setting tool, so that campers have an idea of what to expect. So your sample robot, you don't want it to be a super specific thing. Ideally, it's going to be very simple and a kind of generic shape that almost any idea could be overlaid onto. I'm going to present you with one idea. If you want to do something slightly different, that's totally okay, but just keep in mind those are the goals of the sample robot. So we are going to use the robot that we basically built through the video thus far. So we have our continuous rotation servos, our swivel caster, and then we have all of our guts inside the robot, and our sensors just kind of hanging out inside at the moment. For my robot, I'm going to add a couple arms, probably on either side of the robot, and then a head that moves. So I'm actually incorporating all 3 servos, but it's going to stay very simple. Okay, so I've decided for my arms, I'm going to use my 2 blue servos. And I don't really want my servos on the outside, so that means I'm going to have to make a notch on either side so that my servos can go inside the robot. And then my arm motions are going to be here on the outside, and yeah, okay, so I'll do that next. Okay, so I've encountered my first problem. I want to put my servo right here, but I have my 4 stabilizing cubes in these corners, and these 2 up here are blocking where I need the servo to go. So there's a couple techniques you can use in this situation. I'm going to use the steak knife pry technique or twist technique that I had shown you in an earlier video, which means I'm going to take the knife, slide it between the Cori board and the cube, and then twist. And that pries, pops off. And that takes the cube out. You can also try just pulling it away on the corners. That seemed to almost look easier in that situation, but those are 2 techniques for removing those cubes. Okay, so I have cut the 2 notches that I needed in both sides. I used scissors to make the initial cuts down the side, and on one side I snipped it with the scissors, and on the other side I folded it and then sawed it off with the steak knife. Now I need to position my servos where I want them, so I know where to glue them, and also test to make sure that they are going to rotate through the area that I want them to. So mine, I want to rotate down here, and it looks like it has degrees of motion through that area, which means I don't need to take the screw out and put this back on. And I'll test the other side as well. Okay, so now I've added my 2 servos. These will be the arms on the side. And now I think for the next one I want a head, so I'm going to make a notch in the middle and then support it with 2 cubes. Okay, so I've added my 3rd motion servo, and it is secured with 2 cubes, and I made a notch for it so it could sit below the surface of the top of the body. Next I'm going to wire these all up, so I'll supply power to each of these and make sure that they all operate and as I hope. Okay, so I've now connected the wires for each of these. You can see on each connection I've added a small tape connection because these wires can pull apart, and it's just frustrating when they do, so this tape just holds it together. Now I will write a simple program before I build all the parts and just make sure everything is working. Okay, so I created a program for my sample robot. I just wanted to show you what I created. So you can see I have a stacked if statement. The arms are set off to go off when the ultrasonic sensor senses something closer than 20 centimeters to it. So first the left arm and right arm are going to move at the same time, and then the head is going to move. And then it'll keep doing that until either the object moves away or the object gets even closer, at which point it will move towards the object and then turn and then stop. that's all. It's a sample robot. It's not supposed to do anything too special. And then we can just look at what I created up here. So we have the, backward too. That's supposed to be forward, because I found out my forward was actually backward and my backward was forward. So forward and backward, and then stop and turn. Then I have my left arm and right arm, and then my head, which is on servo 7, and I wanted it to go to a few different positions, so I set it to go to 50 degrees, then 70 degrees, and then 100 degrees. So it kind of looks like it's looking around a bit more. And then when I created my program, I tried it and it didn't work. So my troubleshooting, I first looked to the wiring and it looked fine. And then I looked at the debugging and saw that the readings from the ultrasonic sensor were not correct, and that was because I had the pins and the wires, or I had told it to look at 11 and 10 for the ultrasonic sensor, not 12 and 11. And I had looked and I thought it was correct, and it took going to the sensor to get me to look again and see that I had not plugged them into the correct pins. I tell you this just so you don't feel like you're doing it wrong when you have to troubleshoot. So it's just part of the process, finding out something doesn't work and then checking to see which part of the system just is not as it should be. Okay, so I'm going to jump back out of this and we'll look at building it further now that we have this program. And I tested it to see that it now works as I planned. Okay, so I have added my arms to my robot, and now my head I made from, I did that technique where I made lots of cuts so I could get a curve, and I used a flat back, and I cut out his top to his head, and then I made this kind of interesting eyes and face feature, and now I want to stick it on here, and I'm going to use a technique where I put a cube on the servo, so I'm just going to glue it straight onto the servo horn, which then gives me a flat surface, and I'll glue the back of the head to the cube. Okay, so I've made the final additions to my robot. Here he is. So I glued the head on, I added the tail, which you can see I made just by making a hinge and then kind of naturally springs. I put a hatch on the back, which is connected with Velcro off of a cube, and the mating part on the flap. I used a hinge, the tape hinge technique down here. All the guts are inside. I put a sheet on the front to cover his insides up here. And just for something different, I put his sensor on the side. Maybe I'd want to disguise it more if this was an actual robot. But let's see if he works. So I'm going to switch him on. I think he goes through a sequence the first time I turn him on. So I close him. Now, staying, so if I get within 20 centimeters, his arms start to move. That's good. Oh, and now his head's moving. That's also good. And if I get closer, let's see. Oh, he does his driving sequence. And now he's driven away. Okay, and that is how to build one potential sample robot. Again, it's up to you if you want to make yours slightly differently. But again, just trying to reach those goals of giving campers kind of a blank slate to work from and not making anything too specific. Good luck.